one giant is airborne.
It was front-page news
From the scene of Britain's worst train disaster. Had she fallen, she was expected to be able to fly 9 weeks ago when he was a soldier in Germany. He met Priscilla Goodyear. Looks with eager interest as the body of Pathe near New Orleans.
We are all part of history. Wherever we are and whatever we're doing, world events shape our memories. And for most of the 20th century, those events were filmed and explained by Pathe. Pathe News captured history in motion, creating a living chronicle of a turbulent century. 1932 was a year of mass unemployment. The world economic slump had brought severe recession to the industrialized world. In Britain, 2.8 million people were without work. In Germany, the figure was 5.6 million. And in the United States, the unemployed numbered a staggering 13.7 million. 1932 was election year in the United States, and Franklin D. Roosevelt ran as a Democratic Party nominee. He promised the nation a policy called the New Deal, a policy of social welfare and economic regeneration. That, and his pledge to repeal the prohibition laws, swept him to a landslide victory over his Republican opponent. In the 30s, the newsreels were without the versatile news-gathering technology we're used to nowadays, so Pathe concentrated on stories which could be filmed easily. Stories about major sporting events, royal activities, and the ever-shifting frontier of technological progress dominated the newsreels in 1932. The world was still getting used to the fact that man could fly. Pathe never lost an opportunity to report a new breakthrough in the conquest of the skies. Amelia Earhart was hailed as the world's foremost aviator. At 35, she was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. Amelia was born in the US in 1897. During the First World War, she worked as a military nurse in Canada, and then as a social worker in Boston. In 1928, she was the first female passenger across the Atlantic. Having achieved world fame, Amelia spent her time in civil aviation. In 1935, she would be the first person to fly successfully from Hawaii to California. And in 1937, she would set out around the world flight. Amelia and her navigator disappeared mysteriously in the Central Pacific. 1932 also saw the re-election of Hindenburg as president of Germany. The newsreels presented the old warrior as the undisputed leader of the German nation, although a newcomer, Adolf Hitler, gained 37% of the vote as runner-up after a second ballot.
With the inauguration today of their weekly airmail service to Cape Town, Imperial Airways have extended their British East African route to South Africa. Amongst those present at today's ceremony were the Deputy Director of Civil Aviation and the Directors of Imperial Airways, who, with other passengers, will travel with the first mail. This Heracles airliner will complete the first leg of the journey from London to Brindisi. The mails are due to arrive in South Africa in 11 days' time.
Here comes Noah's Railway Ark, the zoo on wheels, ending a journey which has lasted for over 126 years, or rather almost ending it, but they're just coming into Dunstable Station now, which is just 3 miles away from Whipsnade Zoo. The animals came out 2 by 2, the elephant and another elephant too. That seems wrong somehow. And next, a couple of dromedaries, looking very, very bored with all this excitement. Here they come, and as you'll see by the signpost, they're getting quite near home. At least what's going to be their home for the rest of their lives. And here come the lions and tigers. Needless to say, they're not walking. The British, whose presence and activities Mr. Gandhi makes out to be the curse of his country, have given the peoples of India a gift of untold value. Conceived and built by British brains and skill, the Sukkur Dam, known as the Lloyd Barrage, will remain for all time a monument to the British Raj. The greatest irrigation scheme in the world, it will bring fertility to 5 million acres of land. The mighty Indus River has been harnessed by our engineers, and its waters, instead of rushing useless to the sea, are to meander across the parched desert of Sindh.
Sir Malcolm Campbell scored yet another victory at Daytona Beach today when he broke the world records for the 5 miles and for the 5 and 10 kilometers. Sir Malcolm averaged a speed of 253.96 miles an hour over the official mile.
I think Pathe and Harry gone. Number 7 and there he's gone.
In spite of having to drive into a 40 miles an hour wind, the conditions were fairly good, the sand being relatively free of ruts. With new modifications having been made in her design, Bluebird performed magnificently.
I'm very glad that we've succeeded in bettering the record that we put up last year, but frankly, I'm not so happy with the average speed that we achieved. I would like to take this opportunity of thanking the officials of Daytona for all their kindness and for everything they've done for me in preparing the course. Nothing has been too much trouble, and I do most sincerely thank them all for their kindness and hospitality. Well, you lads, I want to thank you all very much for all you've done. If it hadn't been for your good work, we should never have got this speed. Thank you fellows very, very much. The car went absolutely okay. Bravo. And cheers to the skipper.
Well, here we are again on the top of the stands at Aintree. In a few minutes, we shall see the Grand National.
There's His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, shaking hands with the Steward of Entry prior to the parade of runners. As the riders leave the enclosure to line up for the start of the race, the field is made up as was expected, with Tamasha being the only non-starter among the horses marked on the programme. The 3 past winners, Gregalac, Sean Goylin and Grackle, seem to be the favourite among today's crowd, as well as Coup de Chapeau, a fine type of steeplechaser whose turn may yet come in this race. And they're off. As they hurtle towards the first fence, all 36 runners are closely grouped together, with Apostrophe and Tooten Hill just out in front. The weather for this race is delightfully fine, although the going will be inclined to be hard. And at the first fence, it's Tooten Hill and Apostrophe, clear of the first with Inverse closely behind. All horses bar one have jumped without too much difficulty. Coming up to the third fence now with Gregalac, Grackle and Heartbreak Hill all well placed, as is Forborough, as yet an unconsidered horse, and I think Apostasy has fallen here, along with Red Lynch and Tooten Hill. This is the first serious trouble so far, with one rider still on the ground. And here they come now down the straight towards the next fence, and most horses have jumped relatively unscathed. Coming into the canal turn now, and Inverse has fallen. Egremont, Evolution and Forbra are in the front rank with Grigalac and Grackle well placed. This slow motion picture shows the power with which these chasers jump beaches, with only one rider falling happily unhurt. They're racing towards the anchor bridge fence, and Pelorus Jack, the riderless horse, has cut across the fence and refused, causing a number of horses to be pulled up. Grigalac has been brought down, and Heartbreak Hill is forced into the wind. Grackle and Heartbreak Hill were put at the fence again and got over. Prince Cherry fell before reaching the water jump, upsetting Dusty Foot, with Grackle, KCB and Harewood also falling.
Now they're off on the second circuit. It's been an amazing race so far.
Going out into the country for the second time, Egremont and Forbra, side by side, lead from near east with Sean Goiling and Annandale not far behind them. The two leaders are coming on neck and neck, and it's difficult to predict which of these two will win. This really is a most exciting duel. And they're coming into the canal turn, and Egremont and Forbra, still close together, are out clear with a lead of many lengths. Annandale being in front of the others, Forbra made the slightly better jump. But Egremont is not beaten. There really is nothing to choose between these two riders. And coming down the straight before the final fence, Forbra has the edge and he jumps clear, with Egremont following a few lengths behind. And into the final straight, Forbra is still out in front, with Egremont making a last desperate attempt. But Forbra will not be beaten, and Forbra wins with Egremont second and Sean Goiling third. What a remarkable race. The winner, who started at 50 to 1 against in the ring and 95 to 1 on the totalizator, is led into the winner's enclosure. Ridden by Hamey, trained by Rymel, and owned by Mr. W. Parsonage, this little-known 7-year-old has proved once again that the National can be anybody's race. A truly gallant winner.
This is the little cottage with the straw roof which Princess Elizabeth was to have received as a gift from the people of Wales on her 6th birthday on April the 21st. There's the Duchess of York just opening the front door when she went with the Duke of York to Cardiff to accept this wonderful present for their little daughter. And there they are emerging after inspecting the wonders of this perfect home in miniature. Poor Princess Elizabeth. Wouldn't she be sad if she knew of the disaster? But arrangements are already in hand, and by working night and day, they hope to restore it for her birthday surprise. And I'm sure we all hope she won't be disappointed.
The ribbons are tied to the bottle in final preparation for the launch of the Royal Iris II here in the famous Harland and Wolff shipyard in Northern Ireland. Amongst those present at the launch were both the Mayor of Belfast and the Mayor of Zeebrugge in Belgium, with the ceremony being performed by the Lady Mayoress. The bottle having been broken, the ship glides majestically down the slipway and into the water. By special command of the King, the ship was named in honor of her predecessor, whose gallantry at Zeebrugge during the war is renowned. Virtually unsinkable, the vessel will soon be in operation off the coast of Britain. Through an appreciative crowd of spectators, this bevy of bathing beauties parades in perfect formation towards the center stage. These two teams are the lovely representatives from the town of Bondi and Manly. They are here this afternoon to compete in the final of the All Australia Towns Beautiful Womanhood competition, and what a contest it is with a very difficult task in store for the judges. The semi-finalists from Bondi are the first to mount the stage, still keeping in perfect step. This is the last opportunity for judges and spectators alike to come to a decision. But it's the magic of Manly which steals the day, winning this very closely fought contest with this arresting display of feminine charms.
There they are, Newcastle in stripes, the Arsenal in red. Up they go. Midfield play. Ball is swung over to the right. Now Newcastle's left. A brilliant centre follows. Is headed away by Roberts. Steady. Oh, well dribbled, sir. Shoot. Right. Another centre by Boyd. Hapgood headed out. Moss picked up for the first time. A brilliant tackle by Hapgood. A brilliant run by Hume. A long, strong centre. In it goes. And down goes Nelson. John scored. Nelson was picked up by his goalkeeper. Good defence by Newcastle. And a dummy move by the half-back. Bastion centred. Ball's headed away. Hume beaten by Fairhurst. Parker stretched out his leg. Good defence, Parker. Well caught, Master. Jack shooting. Outside it goes. Another centre by Boyd. Not saved.
As His Majesty's representative, I am privileged to read to you the gracious message which the King has sent to his people of New South Wales on this great occasion. His Majesty's message is as follows. I have learnt with great pleasure that the Sydney Harbour Bridge has now been completed, and I desire to congratulate my people of New South Wales and all who have been concerned with the planning and construction of the bridge on the successful conclusion of the enterprise.
A sensational incident occurred and cameras alone recorded it. It all happened in a flash. An officer alleged to be Captain de Groot and a new guardsman spurred his horse forward and slashed the ribbon, saying, "I declare this bridge open," forestalling the Premier. He was quickly pulled from his horse and locked up in the toll house.
Wherever it is outlined,
The great job is done, and the 7 years of "thou shalt not trespass" to the public are relegated into the limbo of forgotten things. The bridge belongs to the man in the street, and how he has taken possession of it. Posterity can never experience the thrill that we have known in watching it rise up slowly but surely, until today it flung wide its gates.
In spite of the frightful weather conditions, thousands of scouts and guides pitched camp at Corston near Bath for the start of their annual jamboree. The chief scout, Lord Baden-Powell, arrived at the pageant in the morning and was soon seen making a tour of the numerous exhibits displayed by the different groups, whilst taking the time to talk to some of the children concerned. Lord Baden-Powell expressed particular pleasure at the work which the rovers were doing for the unemployed. The Chief Scout and Lady Baden-Powell then took the salute at the impressive march past of guides and scouts. The parade over, thousands of children then rushed forward to hear Lord Baden-Powell's speech and to cheer the founder of the Scout movement.
Here you see Lady Lindy, whose triumphant solo flight across the Atlantic is the admiration of the whole world. Taken 4 years ago when she landed at Bury Point in Wales, the first woman to do it then, and now she's done it again, alone. What a wonderful woman. And isn't she like Lindbergh? I've done it. Those were Lady Lindy's words when she got out of her machine in the field near the little village of Calmore. And all the villagers cheered her. Isn't she amazing? She doesn't look as though she's just battled with the elements for 2,000 miles in one of the most wonderful flights ever made, does she? And there's her little plane, with which she's broken all records and crossed the Atlantic in 13.5 hours. She wasn't even too tired to sign autographs. And there's Dan McCallion, the farm labourer, who dashed for cover when her plane landed almost on top of him. And she sat in the window of the little farmhouse and told her story. And what a story, too. And then to London, with a real summer's greeting, pelting with rain, thunder and lightning. Good old English weather. And finally, on the steps of the clubhouse, congratulations by Mr. Andrew Mellon, the American ambassador. Well done, Lady Lindy.
A naval salute was fired at Cowes today as the Royal Yacht Victoria and Albert sailed into sight. From the Royal Yacht Squadron, interested spectators watched as the vessel dropped anchor. Having spent the day at Osborne House, the King and Queen then boarded the Royal Pontoon to return to the yacht in time for afternoon tea. Their Majesties are here for a well-earned rest and to enjoy the holiday which they like the best.
Il est juste que ce monument,
speaking first in French and then in English, the Prince of Wales, as President of the Imperial War Graves Commission, today unveiled the British Memorial at Thiepval in honor of the missing who fell in the battles of the Somme.
il est encore plus juste qu'à l'ombre de ces pierres, élevées à la gloire des 2,5 millions de morts tombés sur la Somme, soldats français et soldats britanniques, reposent côte à côte.
This is the last and greatest of the war memorials erected by the Imperial War Graves Commission in France.
It is the best example.
With the unveiling of this memorial, the commemoration of the British soldiers who fell in France and Belgium in the Great War is complete.
For a common object. In France, in Belgium, in Italy, and wherever else throughout the world our armies fought, the names of our dead are individually recorded on the headstones marking their graves, on memorials to the missing casualties.
Champion jockey Gordon Richards today rode his 100th winner of the season on washout in the second race at Windsor. And Pathe Gazette were the only newsreel there to record the event. It has taken Richards a little less than 5 months to ride his century of winners, an average of 6 winners a week. Even with 3 months of the present season to run, Richards has placed himself in an unassailable position, his nearest rival being roughly 30 winners behind him. Gordon Richards has ridden slightly more than 700 winners during his career, and he's only 28 now. President von Hindenburg, seen here leaving the garrison church after a Thanksgiving service, today celebrates his 85th birthday. Contrary to his custom of recent years, the President spent the day in Berlin. But the final ceremonies were, as always, in keeping with the modesty of his unchanging wishes. Wearing his field marshal's uniform, von Hindenburg was cheered by the thousands who lined the Wilhelmstrasse as he reviewed the troops standing outside the presidential palace. The President paused momentarily to salute the company of honor, carrying standards of his own regiments before continuing his review of the assembled troops. The company of standard bearers then marched off parade before Field Marshal von Hindenburg stood, erect as always, to watch the celebratory march past of the crack German regiments. The nation's dependence on him has never been so keenly felt as on this, his 85th birthday. In solemn procession, the Guard of Honor and Regimental Band lead the funeral cortege of John Fielding, V.C. Drawn by 6 horses, a gun carriage bears the coffin of this hero of the Zulu Wars towards its final resting place. Mr. Fielding enlisted in the army in 1877 and changed his name to Williams to avoid being traced by his disapproving father. For his bravery at Rorke's Drift, he was mentioned in dispatches and awarded the Victoria Cross. Place of honor in the funeral procession was given to survivors of the Zulu campaigns, each with their own tribute to pay. The service was held at the Church of St. Michael Clantanum, where Mr. Fielding was later buried with full military honors. In Washington today, thousands of hunger marchers demonstrated through the Capitol, hoping to lay their claims before Congress. With a band playing stirring music and banners held high, the demonstrators, flanked by police carrying batons, filed past the crowds of onlookers lining the streets. Amongst the demands the hunger marchers will make on Congress are one for unemployment insurance and another for winter relief from the federal government, amounting to $50 in cash for each unemployed person and $10 for each of his dependents. America certainly has her share of problems too. Miss Diana Churchill, eldest daughter of Mr. Winston Churchill MP, is seen here with her father outside their London home before leaving for her wedding to Mr. John Bailey at St. Margaret's Church, Westminster. The bride wore a gown of ivory satin. Her veil was held in place by a wide wreath of orange blossom, and she carried a prayer book. The bride and Mr. Churchill were met by the Dean of St. Margaret's on their arrival at the church for the ceremony. Canon Carnegie officiated at the service, assisted by the Reverends Dubert and Bourchier, while crowds of well-wishers waited outside. As the bride and groom left the church, the crowd surged forward against the police cordon, and the happy couple saw their way blocked by waiting photographers. The new Mr. and Mrs. Bailey then made their way in the other direction, with their 6 young bridesmaids following closely behind. After them came Mrs. Clementine Churchill and Sir Abe Bailey, Lady Bailey and Mr. Winston Churchill, and the others of the wedding party. The police had difficulty in holding back the good-natured crowd, and the bridal pair made a slow progress to their awaiting car. Amidst cheers and cries of good luck, the couple then drove off to their wedding reception, whilst the bridesmaids and the rest of the bridal entourage battled their way through the milling throng, with Mr. Lloyd George receiving a particularly hearty greeting from well-wishers.
As the foremost newsreel company in the world during the 30s, Pathe News brought the cinema-going public their first glimpse of many new technological developments. 1932 was no exception. From an early kind of helicopter to an automated parking lot, Pathe gave the public images that made sense of the modern world. Pathe also endeavored to capture the lighter side of life. Out on the street, economic times were hard, with unemployment rising and little agreement amongst politicians about solving the crisis. People craved entertainment, and the newsreels tried to create an optimistic picture of the future.
This is the first time an autogyro has ever attempted such a long trip. In fact, it's the first time an autogyro has ever attempted to fly over any appreciable distance of water.
We're taking off now on our daring flight to Havana. An easy climb and we're in the air off Miami. A last look at the Florida city, and Captain Yancey heads the ship south for the risky trip over the Florida Keys, which are no place for safe landings. Then out over the water. On the way, we sight a transport plane and a liner also headed for Havana, while above our heads, the whirling autogyro blades keep us safely aloft as we pass a tiny schooner just outside of Cuba's chief port. Now we're approaching Morro Castle, the historic fort which guards the entrance to the harbor. A famous landmark is a beautiful sight from the air. Then onward over the anchorage where the Maine lay when she was blown up in 1898. Yancey swings our ship over the smiling city of Havana itself, where anxious throngs are awaiting our arrival. We sight the new $18 million capital on our way to the landing field. At our goal, a cordial Cuban welcome awaits us, and somebody presents Captain Yancey with a keg of horseshoe nails for luck.
With more and more machines being invented to speed up the workload, the mechanical age is upon us. This machinery can print books by the million. Thus is the printed word given greater availability to readers throughout the world. The advent of mechanization at the docks means that food will be fresher than ever. This cargo of bananas can be unloaded from the ship within a matter of hours, with a helping hand, of course. In constant procession, score upon score of these tropical fruits is mechanically lifted down the side of the ship to the warehouse. Here they are packed ready for distribution to the local markets and greengrocers throughout the country for the housewives to buy tomorrow. Here at the Royal Mint, modern machines are minting more money per minute than we will see in a lifetime. truly the march of the millions. The equipment of the London Fire Brigade, already perhaps the most efficient in the world, is today augmented by this new turntable ladder. The ladder, the first of its kind to be placed in commission by any brigade in this country, is fitted onto a motor chassis. By switching over a lever, the power of the engine is used to maneuver the machine and extend the ladder from its turntable base. A telephone which is connected at the side of the turntable enables the officer in charge of ground control to be in constant communication with the fireman positioned at the top of the ladder, and thereby dispenses with the use of a megaphone, thus allowing much clearer instructions to be given by either party during the course of fighting a fire. The ladder, which is made of steel, can be extended to a height of 100 feet. The new machine allows a fireman standing on a platform at the apex to be raised with the ladder, and once positioned, the hose he controls is simultaneously released in the direction of the fire. The ladder is self-supporting and allows easy access to and from the burning building without fear of the equipment itself catching fire. The race is on and the crowds are out in force to witness the first meeting of a new motorcycling event, the cross country. Here on a course just outside Paris, there are plenty of thrills to be had as the cyclists compete over a terrain perhaps more suited to a fairground ride. Their machines are certainly put to the test as they continue their switchback ride over numerous humps and bumps, with the riders gaining a few bruises on the way. I feel sure that we'll see a lot more of this sport in the near future.
This rudder seems to have caused quite a lot of excitement during its trip to the north and back. Whole villages have turned out to watch it crawl through or stop by the wayside for refueling. It takes quite a lot of petrol to do this trip, too. The journey one way is 316 miles, and it took them driving night and day, 6 days, 16 hours. That's only about 2 miles an hour average, but it's pretty good, really, for a giant like this. You certainly don't have speed cops to worry about, but you have a lot of other police chasing you all day, with no parking, please, or not through our town if you don't mind. Going around the corners, the fellow on the back just ports his helm a bit, or starboard, as the case may be. If he gets into any trouble, well, he can always phone up the driver in the front and say half a mo. To get across London, they had to wait until all the other motorists had gone to bed. Perhaps that's just as well, as I should imagine there'd been a good old mix-up with this little lot going down the Strand. Still, they got there, and they gave the kids a great treat on the way.
This is the first vertical automatic parking machine in commercial operation. It is installed in the heart of Chicago's busy loop district. The installation shown here occupies a ground space not to exceed that normally taken by 6 automobiles. The capacity of this machine is 48 cars. The speed of operation is such that it will require not to exceed 55 seconds to deliver a car from the highest point down to its owner. This combination of automatic service with speed prevents the delay and congestion which might otherwise occur.
D3.
This busy exchange now enables subscribers to avoid the loss of time caused by language barriers. Given the number alone, the caller can be connected to anybody there who can speak the specified tongue. This is London's latest river attraction, the paddle steamer Showboat, and she's about to embark from Westminster Pier on her first trip up the Thames. With the addition of a special funnel and mast for lowering, the vessel is able to pass under all the bridges on her route, as seen here at Westminster Bridge. Fitted out as a floating cabaret, she can accommodate 250 people comfortably. Here on the upper deck we see Dora and her band entertaining the guests on one of the two dance floors which are situated on the boat. Showboat also has two dining areas and will provide music, dancing and cabaret twice daily, sailing between Westminster and Gravesend and Teddington.
Well, backless bathers are back with a vengeance. Poor old Mrs. Grundy isn't worrying so much about the goings-on as the takings-off. Close your eyes now and hope for the worst. A style that should find favour with the well-dressed siren. She's apparently cut her expenditure to the bone. But there's worse to come. Another with a radio wave effect. One thing about these costumes is that they won't shrink. They daren't. Wouldn't be hard to spot her in the crowd. Seems pretty straight-laced. They didn't sell this model way back in the 80s. Made for those girls who go down to the sea in slips. What'll the wild wife say to this? She believes a woman's place is in the foam. But you haven't seen anything yet. The next one we've been saving up for you. Hang on to your seats. Won't be much else to hang on to. Miss 1932 is taking the plunge with a reckless disregard for the critics, and the nation awaits with bated breath for the strange fish it's going to see on the beach this year. This is the Ultra, Ultra, Super, Super. It certainly holds its own, just about. Suppose it's all done to cut out the middleman's profit, but it's what's cut out that costs the money. The very latest, a zipper back. This idea opens up great possibilities. Thought she'd get pulled up, though. One thing certain, the beaches are going to be very popular this summer.
Dr. Eckner said he was going to be here at Hanworth at 6 o'clock. At about 1:02, he came into sight. It's wonderful, but he's always that way, exactly up to time. Matter of fact, tonight there's quite a strong wind, so we'll see how the landing party handles her. It consists of about 500 rover scouts. They're under the command of Captain Meager, who was the first officer on the R-100 when she made her flight to Canada and back. Once again, as happened last year, the crowd has absolutely broken through. They're just taking aboard the passengers now, who at 40 pounds a time are going on a 24-hour cruise around Britain. There she goes. She's just away. They've been here about an hour. taken aboard all their passengers for the round-the-Britain trip. There goes the water. I think some of the Boy Scouts got a bit wet then. There go our engines. Now you watch how quickly she takes off. Straight up into the sky. Here she comes. She'll have to duck.
It may not be that other world-famous racing course, but the competition is just as fierce here at this popular leisure resort, as 30 cars compete in this 100-mile race. The day started well, with the sun shining and a crowd of nearly 50,000 spectators gathered to watch the thrills. The drivers had to display all of their skills when negotiating the corners, having to slow down considerably just coming off the straight. Unlike the track at Brooklands, the sands here at Southport do not provide a firm grip for the car's tyres, and an experienced driver is needed to stop the car from skidding. The rain towards the middle of the race made driving conditions very hazardous, and the crowd were witness to quite a few near misses. The checkered flag is up and the winner races across the finish line. Amidst applause from the crowd, he receives his trophy. Well done, that man.
After 8 days of continuous flying without a let-up, during which they refueled in midair whenever the gas was low, Louise Thaden and Francis Marsalis decided to call it an endurance record and come down to Mother Earth in the flying boudoir. They're home in the sky for 196 hours. They used to call women the weaker sex, but this doesn't look much like it. Here they are now with Louise Thaden speaking to you.
But we got tired staying up there. It's just too monotonous, so we decided just to up and come down, and so we did. Make a fast to it. I'm going to stand until an hour and a half. You know, we had a lot of time, difficult times. Every time we start to take a bath, somebody come up to see us.
Something new to make flying safer. Stabilizers like these keep the plane level while in flight. The pilot's taking up the ship to show you how the device works. There he is getting out of the cabin, leaving the plane completely under automatic control. See how smoothly it flies without a human hand to guide it. Now the pilot's on the fuselage, and no one is in the cockpit. The test is a success and should encourage one-armed drivers who want to hug their girls.
This is the new uniform and equipment as paraded for us by the War Office for you to see. There is one fact we'd like to point out. The whole thing is purely experimental, and even when finally passed, is intended only for maneuvers and active service. So you won't see Tommy Atkins marching about the streets looking across between a hiker and a fisherman.
Whenever we are inclined to think that today's fashions may be on the curious side, it does us good to go back a few years to see what Mother wore then. For instance, these were the Paris modes 25 years ago. As a contrast, glance at this chic little suit with reams of intimate pockets. Observe, too, the endearing woolly gloves and the coat, snipped with masterly precision. The younger generation has shamelessly pilfered the family album for these modes, Gay 90s and Dear Jane, with their hilarious leg of mutton sleeves. But this coat is ultra 1932, with its secretive collar lined with broadtail. and feathers in one's cap are frankly obsolete when compared with the stimulating coxcomb of wool loops. Lastly, the starriest notion of all, wool evening frocks. Minx they called this one, complete with the most alluring ruffles. The others were christened Malmaison and Passion Flower. The first in 2 melting shades of purple, and the last captivating and charming in profoundest green diagonal wool.
In the true spirit of Christmas, these young medical students from the Middlesex Hospital are on their way to bring some Christmas cheer to their young patients. With a daring daylight raid watched by an intrigued crowd of passers-by, they kidnapped an unprotesting Father Christmas, who is then bundled unceremoniously towards their waiting getaway car, where he's hurriedly stashed in the back of the vehicle. There then follows a high-speed chase through the streets of London to the gang's hideaway. Here, Santa is helped down by yet more of the gang's accomplices and led away to their headquarters, the children's ward, where he gives a ransom of toys to the youngsters confined to bed over the festive season. Well done, Doc.
1932 was one of the worst years of the Depression. High unemployment and industrial decline ravaged the world, and few knew how to deal with the crisis. In America, Franklin D. Roosevelt thought he had the answer, and the nation awaited his inauguration in 1933 to see whether his program would work. In Germany, Adolf Hitler, with growing support on the streets, waited in the wings. The 30s were about to become a dangerous decade. 1932, a year to remember.